If you want to make your first short film and don't know where to start, you've come to the right place. I've spent years making low-budget short films and making many mistakes along the way. So here's what I learned and what I wish I knew before I made my first short film. Aim for not bad rather than perfect. It's time to reconcile yourself with one fact. Your first short will not be very good. It might have some really good ideas and maybe even some good technical execution, but it's difficult not to feel disappointed when you make your first short and it doesn't compare to other films you've seen. In some ways, that's because we don't see many short films. Unless you attend film festivals, chances are you've only seen the very few highly awarded films that come out of high-end festivals, get published on Netflix or whatever, or even the shorts that precede animated features made by big companies like Pixar. Now, you're making your first short, so you can't compare it to those. Instead of worrying about those comparisons, I recommend that you focus on just getting the basics right. That way your audience will enjoy the film and you will learn more instead of pulling your hair out over comparisons that don't really make sense for this scope of project. Aim to make things not painful to watch rather than perfect. Spend as little money as possible. This might seem like obvious advice, but lots of people overspend on their first shorts, especially if you're making them later in life and you have the ability to actually save up some proper money. Unfortunately, you can't buy experience, and that's what really makes a film work. And as a result, there are a lot of good-looking but pretty bad first short films. Now, if you're super rich, this might not be a problem, but for most of us, it means that you've spent all of your cash and can't make another film for quite some time. I'm a real advocate for making lots of very cheap shorts before graduating to making an expensive one. It's a good way of gaining experience quickly, certainly a better way than spending all of your money on just one movie. If you pay for one thing, pay for sound. So a caveat to the previous point, and I hope this doesn't sound too contradictory. Lots of serviceable shorts are really spoiled by bad sound. It's understandable. Most people get into films to play with cameras and editing, not microphones, but it makes a huge difference. This is a lesson that took me way too long to learn, and it really came back to bite me a few times. In fact, my first festival short was almost completely redubbed. The sound recordist was a fellow student, and their equipment wasn't set up right. Not their fault, they weren't a sound person professionally, but it was a mistake that took months to get right. It's worth getting a proper sound recordist, or at least someone who's actually interested and capable with the equipment, and the same goes for getting a sound designer and mixer for post-production. If you really can't afford this, my advice honestly is to think outside the box and make a movie that doesn't require clean on-set sound. My short film Kissy Lips Man was made without any set sound because the crew was 2 people and I didn't own sound kit. Happily, the lack of dialogue actually meant that the film could play internationally at lots of festivals, and designing all of the sound in post gave it this kind of dreamy feel that really accentuated the surreal horror tone. You know what they say, necessity is the mother of invention. If you can't pay your crew, at least pay for them. Your crew might work for free if they're your friends or if they're super interested in the project, but you have to recognize the commitment that they're making to be there and be respectful of it. You have to respect their time, so schedule realistically and be professional in interactions. You should pay their travel expenses and equipment expenses too if they supply their own equipment, like makeup artists or sound people tend to do, because otherwise they're not just working for free, they're essentially paying you to work on your film. And last but not least, feed them well. A well-fed crew is a happy crew. And no, this does not mean pizza. Many an afternoon on set has been lost to food comas. Think about the life cycle of your film before you make it. Last but definitely not least, you should really think about what you actually want to do with your film when it's finished before you make it. Are you just making it for the experience? Will you show it to anyone? And if so, who? Family, friends, industry professionals? Are you going to aim to get it into film festivals? While these questions might seem very far in the future and too much to bother with right now, they have important ramifications for when you're actually making the film. If you're shooting a 30-minute short, you're probably not going to get into film festivals, just purely due to it being too long. If you're making a gangster crime flick with lots of swearing, your grandma is probably not going to enjoy that family and friends screening. And if you want to shoot anamorphic but you're publishing to YouTube, consider what your mobile viewers will make of it. The other great thing about considering the life cycle of your film early is that it gives you time to plan. If you want to host a screening, you'll need a budget for it. If you want to put it online, it's time to start thinking about how to promote it. Film is a wonderful art form, but it's best shared. So there are my 5 top tips, and of course, one major one which you'll get from everyone: have fun. It's so much easier to make a good movie when everyone is treated well and is having fun with each other. That's it from me, but I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. If you're a beginner filmmaker who's getting ready to make their first movie, let us know about your project and what kind of scale, what you're looking to do with it. And if you're a more experienced filmmaker who's watching these tips to see how they can talk to other beginner filmmakers, let me know some of your best tips for your first movie. It'd be great to hear from the crowd on this one. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.